Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio and Music Production. This is lesson 5.16 and I'm pretty excited about this lesson because we're going to get to talk about frequency modulation synthesis, how that works, and hopefully it's going to be a kind of crude example here, but it's going to show you and give you a nice precursor to what we'll cover when we get to the FM4, especially how FM actually is working. And it's very different from how subtractive synthesis works, which is what we've focused on so far. But in a lot of ways, the overall idea of it is just as easy. And if you've been following along with all of our videos, I think you'll be able to make sense of it. So in the last video we did on instruments, we covered the E snare. And the E snare is really like a classic subtractive synth in that we have a couple of different generators for our sound. We have two oscillators, which are really emitting like sine waves, and then we also have a noise, so we can increase the amount of noise we add in. And let's just kind of make something so I can explain this better. Let's pull these filters all the way down. So right now we've basically generated a sound, and we could do a very similar thing inside of our polysynth if we wanted to do that. Of course, it's a little bit easier here in that the attack stage is already set for us, and all we have to worry about is the decay, especially if these two oscillator hits. We have more control on the decay here with the noise. But basically, we've come up with like our stock sound to start. Now, where this becomes subtractive is when I use the filter to take away some of these frequencies. And now, sadly, I don't have any kind of envelope that allows me to control this, but that's kind of where the polysynth takes over from the E snare. We could, of course, draw in an envelope on the filter if we wanted, but that's the basis of subtractive synthesis. You come up with a sound, and then you use the filters to take some parts away from it. Now, with the E hat, we're going to see that, but we're also going to see another form of synthesis, and that's FM synthesis, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But for now, I'm just going to pull this mix down to 0%, so we're not hearing any of the FM stuff, and we're going to focus on what really is more of the subtractive stuff. So we have noise yet again, and I'm just going to turn off the comb filter right now and also pull this low cut all the way back, pull the resonance down, and just take a listen. Just white noise. So we've definitely been here before, and we can use the filter to filter some of that out. And this EQ is exactly like what you'll have if you had an EQ2 on here. And we can even match these resonance numbers if we want. So basically identical there. The resonance here will go up to 10, where the resonance here will go up into the 30s, but you're really only going to be going up into the 30s if you want a special effect. And once you start to peak the resonance out too high, we're going to start to clip, obviously, because it's just putting so much emphasis on one frequency, and I'll show you that quickly. You see how we're going into the reds. If I pull that down, we'll get out of that. Okay, the other nice thing that this particular synthesizer offers us before we get into those subtractive properties is a comb filter. So the comb filter is going to just add some more into that frequency spectrum, add some peaks in certain places. And with something like a hi-hat, it's not typically considered a pitched instrument, right? Like you can take a drum kit and pretty much replace its hi-hats, and it's going to work. It's going to stay in tune. Obviously, there's different timbral variations, and that's where the comb filter comes in. And this comb filter is identical to the comb filter we have inside of Bitwig Studio. We have a frequency control, we have a feedback control, and then we have a mix control, which in this is called a mount. It's going to do exactly the same thing, and I can show that to you guys quickly. Okay, our frequency is at 3.01. I'm pretty sure this one will go up much higher, so that's the difference. Because hats have a lot of sizzle in them, and this is a good way to get some additional sizzle. And then we'll just pull the feedback down. So basically identical there, it's just built in as opposed to us having to drop this into the effects. If we wanted some additional fun, we could drop this into the effects as well and maybe tune up something a bit different. Out for a sleigh ride there. Okay, so that is how the top section really works. The bottom section, the FM hit, is a little bit different. So I'm just going to turn off the comb filter for now, and I'm going to pull the EQ all the way down, so we're not really having any effect there. And I'm going to pull the mix up to 100%. So now we're focusing on the hit. So I would kind of say that the hit is that initial strike. So the sound that you're going to get from your drumstick or whatever material you're using to hit the drum onto the actual hi-hat itself. The sustain portion, that's probably going to be more working with this comb filter. The hit itself right here, okay, and the noise as well. So right now we're just going to hear what we'd get if we had the hit. Not that exciting. So right now if I pull this up to a 10, we'll hear once I put the noise in that the noise is going to carry on for a long time, but the hit itself is just going to be that little dink. Right? I can change the decay amount, and this is, of course, indicative of what's happening here. The higher this goes up, assuming this decay value is up higher, this will adhere to that, so we can make a longer initial hit sound. So we're getting a bit of a triangle. And now where this gets really fun is with this FM matrix here. And FM stands for, like I said, frequency modulation. Frequency modulation is literally just adjusting the frequency at a very, very fast, audible rate. So what do I mean when I say an audible rate? Well, it's exactly what you'd think, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's in supposedly the range of human hearing. And you'll see that if we pull this all the way down, it goes to 26 hertz. Now, 26 hertz is still really relatively slow. All right, so we're starting to hear something, but it's actually producing more of like a chirping sound here. Let's put it all the way up to the highest it will go, 72.9%. And now I just want you guys to see what happens here. Let me pull up a span so you can see this. This is the best way to understanding FM synthesis. And I'm going to pull this frequency all the way down. Okay. So you can see this quavering in the frequency. So you're actually seeing it moving back and forth very, very quickly. It's just going so fast that's looking like one movement. As I start to pull this amount up, it's going to be modulating the frequency even faster to a point where it goes so fast that instead of being able to hear those changes, that we're going to start to just see some different harmonics pop up here, and we're going to just get new timbres and new sounds. So let's do that. All right, so that's really what frequency modulation is. I'm going to actually show you guys a more advanced example in just a second, or a more maybe something that's going to help you understand this even better. But what we can do in here is, of course, dial something in that's going to work for us with whatever sound we're making. And that's going to be up to you, whatever you want to do with that. And this is our starting frequency. So whatever we want to put up to something really, really high. And then this is the speed at which that frequency is going to be modulated by. So this is staying the same. This is doing the modulating on the frequency. So you can get some pretty cool results if, for example, like I put an LFO at the front here, dropped our E-hat in there, and modulated this. Well, I'm going to show you how this can go really crazy. I'll just do it first. And what you might notice here is that this is at 50.1 hertz. 50.1 hertz is above that 20 hertz range. And if it's above the 20 hertz range, we're actually imparting frequency modulation on frequency modulation here, which is a bit profound and confusing right now. And if we want to even take that a step further, we could do something like this. Okay, so that's all sounding a bit nonsensical. And really, FM synthesis, for a lot of applications, it can really produce very harmonic and very inharmonic results. And we'll talk about that more with the FM4. But for now, I want to go back and show you guys a quick example of how we can impart a very similar sound using just an LFO and a test tone. So first, let's pull the E-hat back in here. Let's pull this up to 100. Let's go down to our most basic of setting. We'll pull this frequency all the way down to 2.64, 26 hertz at 72.9%. Let's increase the decay. Okay, perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an instrument track. I'm going to put on a test tone. If I can find it. Let's turn that off. I'm going to put an LFO at the front of it. Drop it in here. So with the test tone, we have a frequency here, and on our E-hat, we're at approximately, what are we at? 2.64. So we can get this to around 2.64. And all frequency modulation is, and let's put this inside an FX chain too. Change this to whatever that is, something in like around 79%. All frequency modulation is modulating the frequency. In our case, this is actually a pitch, modulating this pitch so fast that it introduces new harmonics. And this is a great example for understanding how more advanced FM synthesis is working. So I'm going to go ahead and route this right now, just very subtly. Maybe even less than that. Let's try to get 1 exactly. All right, that's close enough for me. And now let's listen to what happens here. As we increase, the LFO is still acting in a normal way until we increase over 20. At that point, you're going to hear a bit of a change. We're starting to see new harmonics creeping in there at the top. Things are starting to change. We're getting new harmonics. And let's see if we can actually make this go faster. so we can see if we can really take this to an extreme. So I'm going to sync this to beats. I'm going to put this to the very fastest beat I can. Let's see. Oops. Ready? And so what I'm doing here to actually make this run even faster is I'm changing our pitch I'm changing our tempo, because our tempo, if we go at a really, really fast tempo, it's doing 64th notes of that really fast tempo. So this will do FM to more of a traditional. Starting from there, we end up here. All right, fairly profound, and there's ways in which you can control that, which we'll talk about with the FM4, but with something like a hat, we don't care that much if it's in tune with anything, because it's a percussive sound. It doesn't have to be in tune. It can be whatever it wants to be for the sake of the timbre. So that's why we're going to use FM here, because FM is always typically associated with things that are either harmonic or not harmonic. If you use really weird ratios, like we have right here, bizarre ratios, right? I'm running 2.64 into 487 hertz. All right? All the way up to 4.7 hertz. If I line these numbers up exactly, if I line this up to 2.64, all right, we're going to get a very harmonic result out of this guy. Or if I put this to 1.32, a perfect ratio, I'm sorry, 1320, we're also going to get something that sounds very harmonic. And if we wanted to, we could go into this span here and we could actually check where these peaks are occurring. But once I go outside of that, once I start messing with this a little bit and not staying at even ratios, it starts to become more and more dissonant. You can hear that already. And for our hat, that's totally fine, because now if we try to quickly program in a hat sound, it works out great. We get a great sounding hat here. We don't have to worry about our ratios or anything like that. So when you're programming in your hat sounds, feel free to just kind of grab this thing and pull it around, recognizing that the higher you go up is the amount of FM you're doing, from 0% up to 72.9%. All right, that really is going to do it for this video. Feel free to experiment and mess around. And I also hope this was a good introduction to FM synthesis for you. When we actually talk about FM synthesis, I'm sure it's going to be like a 6-hour video, because it's really a deep subject, but the fundamental behind it is so simple, as you just saw. So thank you so much for watching, and you will hear from me again in the next lesson. Take care.